Welcome to Monk's Temple. Before we begin, let your awareness settle. Feel the weight of your body where it rests. Notice the gentle rhythm of your breath, coming and going without any effort from you. There's a quiet here, a space between thoughts, and it's into this space we'll speak tonight. We're not here to learn something new, but to remember something ancient and true. We're here to sit with what the Zen traditions call the great matter of birth and death. This isn't a morbid fascination. It's the opposite. It's an invitation to vitality. Imagine walking through a forest at twilight, believing you have all night to find your way. You might amble, distracted, missing the specific scent of pine after rain, the pattern of ferns, the owl's first call. Now imagine you know the light will fade in 1 hour. Your senses sharpen. Every detail becomes vivid, precious. You are in the forest, completely. The great matter simply turns on that light of awareness. It asks, what if your time in this particular forest of a human life is not endless? How would you walk then? We live swaddled in a comfortable illusion of continuity. We make plans for decades hence. We save experiences for a retirement we imagine in crisp detail. We hold back forgiveness, delay love, postpone joy, all under the assumption of endless tomorrows. It's a practical way to live, until it isn't. Until a diagnosis arrives, or a loved one departs, or we simply wake up one morning with an unshakable feeling that life is slipping through our hands like mist. That feeling isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's the edge of the great matter nudging you awake. I want to tell you about a man named Arthur. Arthur was a clockmaker in a small Swiss village, a man whose life was literally built around measuring time. His workshop was a symphony of ticks and tocks, a cavern filled with the skeletons of grandfather clocks, the delicate hearts of pocket watches, all in various states of repair. Arthur could tell you the time within a 10-second margin without looking at a dial, just by listening to the chorus of his workshop. He believed he understood time. He saw it as a series of perfect, mechanical intervals, a linear procession of identical seconds from birth toward death. His life was governed by this rhythm. Lunch at 12:15. A walk at 4:30. Bed at 10 o'clock. He repaired clocks with exquisite precision, but he rarely looked up. The window of his shop overlooked an alpine meadow that blazed with wildflowers in spring, turned to golden hay in summer, and lay under a silent quilt of snow in winter. To Arthur, these were just indicators of seasonal time, background scenery to the real work of gears and mainsprings. One autumn, a fault in his old stove filled his workshop with a thin, acrid smoke. It was just enough to disrupt the delicate humidity. Overnight, a dozen clocks stopped. Not just slowed. Stopped. Arthur came into a silent workshop. The relentless, comforting tick-tock was gone, replaced by a hollow, empty quiet. He felt a panic that was irrational to him. They were just clocks. He could fix them. But for the first time in 50 years, he had no external measure of time's passage. He sat at his bench in the silence, unmoored. Hours passed, but he didn't know how many. The light through the window moved across his workbench. He watched the dust motes, usually agitated by the vibrations of 100 pendulums, now settling into slow, graceful dances in the sunbeams. He heard, for the first time, the distant cowbells from the meadow, each with a distinct tone. He saw the way the late afternoon sun hit the crystal face of an unfinished carriage clock, throwing a tiny, perfect rainbow on the wall. He wasn't measuring time, he was immersed in it. He was feeling its texture, its presence, rather than its quantity. When he finally got up to light a lamp, he realized he was neither hungry nor rushed. He had existed in a duration, not a schedule. The great matter had entered Arthur's life not through a death, but through a silence. He had always thought of time as something outside himself, a river he was standing beside, marking its flow. In that silent afternoon, he understood he was the river. His awareness, his sensations, the very light in the room, this was time's substance. The clocks measured nothing but their own mechanical decay. The truth of time was in the experiencing of it. He fixed the clocks the next day, of course. The ticks and talks returned. But something had changed. Now, several times a day, Arthur would stop. He would consciously step out of the measured timeline and into the experiential one. He'd watch the light. He'd listen to the cowbells. He'd feel the weight of a gear in his palm. He began to see his clocks not as masters of time, but as beautiful, futile gestures against the current of a much larger, unmeasurable flow. His work became more joyful, not less precise. He was no longer serving time. He was celebrating his momentary place within its mystery. Arthur's story is a doorway. The great matter often announces itself not with a shout, but with a silence. It asks us to distinguish between chronos, quantitative, clock time, and kairos, qualitative, significant time. The time of the soul. We are drowning in chronos, enslaved by schedules and countdowns. The great matter points us toward kairos, the ripe moment, the now that is full of meaning if we are only present to receive it. It tells us that our life is not the number of days in a calendar, but the depth with which we inhabit the moments between the ticks. This shift from quantity to quality is the first and most important step. It's why the awareness of mortality is so freeing. It forcibly drags our attention out of the abstract future and plants it, firmly and irreversibly, in the palpable present. A future-oriented mind is always planning, worrying, anticipating. A present-oriented mind is alive. Neuroscientists have found that when we are fully engaged in the present moment, what they call experiential focus, activity in the brain's default mode network, the generator of our self-referential storytelling and anxiety, quiets down. We literally get out of our own way. The great matter, contemplated not with fear but with curiosity, is a tool for triggering this shift. So let's practice. As you listen, don't try to grasp these words as concepts. Let them be sounds. Feel your breath. The pressure of the air in the room on your skin. The subtle sounds in the space around you. For this moment, there is nothing to fix, nothing to plan, nowhere to go. You are already here. This is the ground from which we explore. This awareness is the lantern we will carry into the heart of the great matter. It is not a solemn light, but a clarifying one. It doesn't show us darkness, it shows us what has been here, illuminated, all along. If this journey to a kinder inner world has touched something in you, if you feel the resonance of a more compassionate way of being with yourself, I invite you to subscribe and turn on notifications. And I'd be honored to continue walking it with you. If the first step is shifting our relationship with time, the second is a radical reevaluation of what it means to live a full life. Our modern world operates on a principle of accumulation. We are consumers, collectors, curators of our own existence. We amass possessions, experiences checked off a list, followers, professional accolades, even spiritual insights, as if life is an empty bucket we must fill to the brim to prove we were here. The promise is that fullness lies on the other side of more. The great matter exposes this as a fundamental, and often painful, error. Fullness is not a state of having. It is a quality of perceiving. It is not about adding more to the container, but about dissolving the walls of the container altogether, so you realize you are already part of an ocean. This is the unlearning. We must disentangle satisfaction from acquisition. Let me introduce you to a concept from architecture and design, Ma. It's a Japanese term that translates roughly to negative space, but that's inadequate. Ma is the purposeful, potent emptiness between things. It's the silence between musical notes that gives the melody its shape. It's the expanse of blank wall in a gallery that makes the single painting resonate. It's the pause in a conversation where true understanding sinks in. Our culture fears Ma. We see emptiness as a void to be filled, silence as awkwardness to be breached, a blank schedule as laziness. We clutter our lives, our homes, our minds, because we are terrified of what we might hear or feel in the empty space. But it is in that space that presence grows. I knew a woman named Alara, a once frenetic fashion photographer in New York City. Her life was a blur of airports, studios, after-parties, and a sprawling apartment filled with art she never looked at and clothes she never wore. She was successful by every external metric, yet she described herself as a beautifully decorated echo chamber. A panic attack on a shoot in Milan was her breaking point. On a doctor's advice, she took a solo trip to the Utah desert, to a small, isolated canyon, with a strict rule: no camera. For the first 3 days, she was jittery, bored, itching for stimulation. She'd compulsively reach for a phone that had no service. By the 4th day, a strange fatigue set in, and then a creeping stillness. With nothing to capture, her mind's eye began to truly see. She noticed how the red rock changed color not just from sunrise to sunset, but in increments of minutes as clouds passed. She saw the intricate geometry of a cracked mud flat. She watched a single hawk circle for what felt like hours, riding thermals she couldn't see. She wasn't framing a shot, she was in the picture. The vast, arid emptiness of the desert wasn't barren. It was saturated with detail, but detail that only revealed itself to patient, uninterrupted attention. It was all Ma. She returned to New York a different person. She didn't quit her job, but she radically simplified her life. She gave away most of her possessions, moved to a smaller, airier space. The clutter was gone. And in that created emptiness, a new way of working emerged. She began taking portraits of people in their own, uncluttered spaces. Her photos became quieter, deeper, less about style and more about essence. She told me, "I used to think I was adding value by adding things to the frame. Props, lighting, wardrobe. Now I know the value is in what I have the courage to leave out." The person emerges in the space around them. Ilara had discovered that the fullness she sought wasn't in the accumulation of experiences or things, but in the depth of her engagement with the single, stark experience of being alive in a silent canyon, or in a quiet room with another human. This mirrors findings in psychology on the paradox of choice. Researcher Barry Schwartz demonstrated that while some choice is good, an overabundance of options leads not to liberation, but to paralysis, anxiety, and less satisfaction with our eventual decision. Our minds, when faced with too much clutter, whether of objects, options, or commitments, become fatigued. They lose the capacity for deep focus. The great matter acts as a ruthless editor. It forces the question, if your time and attention are finite, what is truly worthy of them? It invites us to clear the clutter not as an aesthetic exercise, but as a survival mechanism for the soul. We make space not for more, but for better. For deeper. Consider another story, far from the desert. In the bustling digital hub of Bangalore, there was a young software architect named Rohan. His success was built on adding features. More code, more functionalities, more integrations. His apartment was a smart home, a web of connected devices that optimized lighting, climate, music, and even his grocery orders. His life was the ultimate in seamless, accumulated convenience. Yet, he felt a persistent, low-grade dissatisfaction, a sense of living in a frictionless bubble. One weekend, a monsoon storm knocked out power and internet for 3 days. His digital ecosystem collapsed. The silence was absolute, broken only by the roar of rain. At first, he paced, disconnected and anxious. Then, with nothing else to do, he lit an old kerosene lamp he found in a cupboard. In its flickering light, he read a physical book, feeling the texture of the paper. He cooked a simple meal on a gas camp stove, actually tasting the ingredients. He sat on his balcony and watched the phenomenal violence of the storm, feeling the spray on his face. The experience was rich, visceral, and manual. He had to engage with the world directly, not through an interface. When the power returned, he didn't rush to reboot his systems. He looked at the blinking arrays of LEDs with new eyes. He began a deliberate process of subtraction. He disconnected about half of his smart devices. He instituted analog hours in the evening. He discovered that the friction he'd engineered out of his life, the act of getting up to adjust a thermostat, the slight struggle to find a book on a shelf. Those minor efforts grounded him in his own physical existence. They were anchors to the present. He realized he had been accumulating efficiency at the cost of experience. The great matter, in the form of a storm, showed him that a life too smoothed out becomes imperceptible. We need the texture of small efforts, of slight inconveniences, to feel the grain of our own days. The unlearning of accumulation is, therefore, an embrace of subtraction and depth. It's choosing the well-worn path you know intimately over the endless network of new highways. It's preferring the conversation that goes on for hours with one friend over the frantic networking at a crowded party. It is understanding that a single oak tree, known in all its seasons, from the tight red buds of April to the skeletal grace of January, holds more universe than a fleeting glance at 1,000 different trees. The physicist Richard Feynman spoke of the difference between knowing the name of something and knowing something. You can know the name of every bird in the forest, but if you've never sat still long enough to watch the specific, foolhardy dance of a particular robin pulling a worm from the lawn, you know nothing of birds. You know labels, not life. The great matter pulls us from the superficial layer of labels and into the deep, messy, authentic layer of direct knowing. It asks us to trade breadth for depth, quantity for quality, accumulation for immersion. It is the ultimate critique of a consumer mindset, because it reveals that the most precious things, awareness, connection, the felt sense of being, cannot be bought, collected, or checked off a list. They can only be cultivated in the uncluttered field of a present, attentive mind. We have begun to clear the field. We've questioned our addiction to accumulation and made space. But space for what? Emptiness alone is just a vacuum. The true transformation occurs when we learn to inhabit that space not with new things, but with a new quality of being. This is the mastery of attention. Attention is the most fundamental currency of a human life. It is the lens through which we experience reality. Where you place your attention is your life, in that moment. The great matter grants this lens a profound focus. It teaches us that attention is not a passive floodlight, but a deliberate spotlight. And we are its director. Think of your awareness as a pool of clear water. In its natural, untrained state, the surface is choppy, agitated by the winds of thought, memory, and anticipation. You see only fractured, distorted reflections of the world. The practice born from contemplating the great matter is the practice of stilling that water. Let the sediment of distraction settle. When the surface becomes calm and clear, it becomes a perfect mirror. It reflects the moon of this present moment with flawless accuracy. This isn't about stopping thought, it's about letting thought pass without chasing it, so the water beneath can find its stillness. Modern neuroscience gives us a compelling model for this, the brain's attentional networks. We have a default mode network, DMN, active when we're mind-wandering, self-referencing, worrying about the past or future, the choppy water. And we have the task-positive network, TPN. Engaged when we're focused on a present moment, sensory-based task. They are often inversely correlated. The great matter, when held not as a fear but as a clarifying truth, is a switch that powerfully activates the TPN. It pulls us out of the DMN storytelling and into the raw data of the now. This is the neural basis of presence. Let me tell you about Sister Marianne, a contemplative nun living in a cloistered monastery in rural France. Her external world is one of radical limitation. A small cell, a predictable schedule of prayer, work in the herb garden, and silence. To an outsider, it might seem a life of deprivation. But within that strict container, she has become a master of attention. Her world is not small, it is infinitely deep. I once asked her about her practice. She didn't speak of divine visions, but of weeding. When I am assigned to weed the lavender rose, she said, her voice quiet and precise, that is my universe. I feel the cool, damp soil against my knees. I learn the different shapes of the weeds, the shamrock of clover, the stubborn taproot of dandelion, the delicate, deceptive lace of chickweed. I smell the perfume of crushed lavender on my hands, which is different from the scent of the flower on the stalk. I hear the bees, each species with a different hum. If my mind wanders to yesterday's reading or tomorrow's liturgy, the weeding becomes a chore, my back aches, and I am impatient for the bell. But when my attention rests completely in the task, time ceases. There is only the root, the soil, the scent, the sun. In that complete attention, there is a joy that is wordless and total. That is my prayer. Sister Marianne's life is a masterclass in attention. By voluntarily limiting the scope of her stimuli, she has unleashed incredible depth of perception. She is not missing the world, she is knowing her small corner of it with a reverence most of us reserve for grand vistas. The great matter does for us what the cloister does for her, it imposes a conscious limit. Knowing our time in the garden is finite, do we glance distractedly at all the flowers, or do we kneel and come to know one plant with intimate devotion? Now, consider a different setting, a jazz club in New Orleans. Here we meet Elias, an aging tenor saxophonist. On stage, during a solo, Elias is the epitome of focused attention. The chaotic, beautiful noise of the band. The rhythm section's pulse, the pianist's chords, this is not distraction. It is the sea in which he swims. His attention is not narrow, but exquisitely tuned. He is listening to everything, but he is feeling his way through the music in the present. He is not thinking about the next note, he is letting it emerge from his dialogue with the moment. A missed cue isn't a failure, it's an opportunity for a new turn in the conversation. When Elias is in that state, what psychologists call flow, he is not playing music. He is the music. His sense of self dissolves into the sound. The solo ends not when he runs out of ideas, but when he feels the shape is complete, often to the surprise of his bandmates. After the set, Elias is a different man, frail, a little distant. The spotlight of his attention has shifted. But he told me something profound. People think jazz is about freedom. It is, but it's freedom within limits. The song structure, the key, the tempo, those are the walls of the room. My awareness of death, he said, tapping his chest, that's the ultimate limit. It's the key I play in. Knowing I only get so many choruses makes me mean every note. I'm not scribbling on eternity. I'm carving a signature into a moment that will never come again. For Elias, the great matter is the underlying rhythm, the time signature of his life. It doesn't constrain his creativity, it gives it form and urgency. These two lives, the nun and the jazzman, seem opposites. One in silence, the other in sound. One in repetition, the other in improvisation. Yet both are masters of attention. Both have used limits, external or internal, to fuel a profound depth of engagement. They demonstrate that mastery of attention is not about what you look at, but how you look. It's a participatory gaze. So how do we cultivate this in a world designed to fragment our attention? We start small. We practice what the Zen tradition calls mindfulness in activity. Not adding a meditation session to your day, but bringing meditative attention into your day. The next time you wash a dish, feel the temperature of the water, the slipperiness of the soap, the curve of the plate. When your mind darts to an argument you had or a task you must do, gently return it to the plate. The plate is your universe. When you drink your morning coffee, don't drink it while scrolling. Taste it. Really taste it. Note its bitterness, its warmth traveling down your throat, the weight of the mug in your hand. The coffee is your universe. This is not a trivial exercise. This is the gym where you train the muscle of attention. You are learning to direct your spotlight at will. The great matter is the ultimate weight on that barbell. It asks, if this were the last dish you ever washed, would you wash it with resentment, or with a sense of feeling the water one final time? If this were the last cup of coffee you ever tasted, would you miss its flavor while reading a headline? This practice strips the automatic pilot from our actions. It injects the mundane with sacredness because it is performed with conscious attention. We are not just completing tasks. We are having experiences. This mastery finally reveals a secret: boredom is the itch of an untrained attention. When we say, "I'm bored," what we often mean is, I am unable or unwilling to direct my attention deeply into what is currently before me. A child knows this instinctively. Give them a single cardboard box, and their attention, unimpeded by adult distractions, will turn it into a spaceship, a castle, a cave. They will explore its textures, its sounds, its possibilities with total absorption. The great matter helps us recover that childlike capacity for deep play, not with toys, but with the very stuff of our lives. It asks us to look at the world, at a weed, at a musical phrase, at a dish, at a loved one's face, as if we have never seen it before. Because, in the strict truth of this fleeting moment, we haven't. This version of it will never appear again. We've built a foundation of awareness, cleared space, and begun to train our attention. Now we must confront the primary architecture of our suffering, the elaborate, self-justifying edifice of postponement. Postponement is the psychological mechanism by which we mortgage our present aliveness for a promissory note on a future that may never arrive. It is the operating system of the mind that believes in endless time. The great matter's most direct and unsettling function is to crash this system. It reveals postponement not as prudent planning, but as a form of spiritual theft. We are stealing vitality from our only guaranteed moment, now, to fund a speculative venture in later. Let's dissect this. Postponement wears many masks. It can look like responsible diligence. I'll relax after this project is done. It can wear the guise of perfectionism. I'll start writing when I have the perfect idea, the perfect quiet, the perfect pen. It often masquerades as altruism. I'll focus on my own happiness once the kids are settled. And sometimes, it's simply the fog of habit. One day, I'll visit that friend, learn that language, walk in those woods. We build a life in the waiting room, constantly glancing at the door marked "Real life will begin shortly." There is a potent neurological basis for this. Our brains have a present bias, heavily discounting future rewards in favor of immediate gratification. But with abstract, non-tangible rewards like peace or fulfillment, the reverse happens. We perpetually push them into a vague future because there's no immediate pain for postponing them, only a slow, background drain. The great matter makes the cost immediate. It applies visceral, emotional weight to the passing present. It forces the future reward of living fully into the present moment, making it the most urgent of all possible gratifications. I want to tell you about a man named Ben, a senior partner at a prestigious London law firm. Ben's entire identity was built on deferral. He deferred vacations for case deadlines. He deferred time with his family for partner meetings. He deferred his health, sleep, exercise, proper meals, for the relentless pursuit of the next big win. His mantra was, "I'll have time for that later." His later was a moving target, always one more deal away. He lived in a stunning Georgian townhouse he barely saw in daylight, filled with art he never looked at. The shift came not through a crisis, but through a mundane oversight. He forgot his high-end noise-canceling headphones one evening on the tube. The next morning, on his commute, he was subjected to the unfiltered sound of the city. The screech of brakes, the murmur of strangers' conversations, a child crying, the hushed melody from someone's earphones. Annoyed at first, he then heard something else. A street musician was playing a violin in the tunnel, the notes soaring and aching in the cavernous space. He'd passed this musician 100 times, never hearing him. This time, the sound cut through him. It was unbearably beautiful and sad. In that raw, unmediated moment, a thought slammed into him with physical force. I am postponing my life. And I am running out of laters. That day, he didn't go straight to his office. He walked through a park he passed every day. He sat on a bench and watched pigeons for 20 minutes. He felt the spring sun, weak but persistent, on his face. He was doing nothing of value, and it felt like the most valuable thing he had done in years. Ben's story shows that postponement isn't broken by a grand plan, but by a single, irreverent act of presence. It's the decision to cash in one small promissory note now. To taste the coffee. To hear the music. To feel the sun. Each act is a declaration that later is not the governing authority of your life. Now, consider a different cultural context, one where postponement is woven into the social fabric. In many parts of the world, there's a concept of fatalistic time, inshallah, God willing, in Arabic cultures, or bahala na, come what may, in the Philippines. This can be misinterpreted as passive resignation. But at its wisest, it is not a denial of action, but a profound acceptance of present limits and a release of the obsessive, future-focused control that drives Western-style postponement. It says, I will do what I can, with full presence, in this moment, and I surrender my attachment to a specific future outcome. This is the antithesis of postponement. Postponement says, I will live after a specific outcome is achieved. This wisdom says, I am living while engaging with the process. A story from the high deserts of Nevada illustrates a similar wisdom. An elderly rancher named Walter was known for his preternatural calm. Droughts, blizzards, volatile cattle markets, he met them all with the same steady gaze. A young, ambitious rancher, frustrated by a bad season, asked him his secret. Walter pointed to an ancient, gnarled juniper tree clinging to a cliff face. See that tree, he said. It doesn't waste energy wishing it was in a valley with more water. It doesn't postpone growing until the wind stops. It grows into the wind. Its shape is a record of every storm it didn't run from. That's its strength. My life ain't about waiting for the perfect conditions. It's about being the thing that grows in the conditions I got. Walter's philosophy dismantles postponement at its root. Postponement is based on the fantasy of controlled, ideal future conditions. Walter's life embodies adaptation and presence within the actual, imperfect now. The great matter aligns us with Walter's juniper tree. Our time is the cliff face. Our life is the growing, shaping itself in real time against the elements of circumstance. To postpone is to refuse to grow until the wind stops, which is to refuse to grow at all. So, how do we dismantle the architecture of postponement in our own lives? We must become forensic accountants of our attention and intention. First, audit your when/then statements. Listen to your internal dialogue. I'll be happy when I lose weight. I'll travel when I retire. I'll call my sister when things are less hectic. Each of these is a leak in the vessel of your present. Challenge them. Why not inject a fragment of that future happiness into now? Could you take a walk today for the joy of movement, not just weight loss? Could you explore a new neighborhood this weekend as if you were a traveler? Could you call your sister because things are hectic, for a moment of connection? Second, practice reverse engineering from the end. This is a powerful Stoic exercise called premeditatio malorum, the premeditation of evils. Imagine, vividly, that you have only 1 year left. Not to induce panic, but to create clarity. What would you immediately stop doing? What would you immediately start? Who would you see? What would you say? The answers that arise are not your bucket list of exotic trips, but almost always a simpler, more profound set of priorities: mending fences, expressing love, sitting quietly, enjoying ordinary routines. Now, crucially, what is stopping you from doing those things right now? The answer is usually nothing but the ghost of postponement. Third, embrace good enough and launch. Perfectionism is postponement in intellectual disguise. It says, I cannot begin until I am guaranteed a flawless outcome. But life is not a finished product, it's a process of engagement. The writer and Lamott champions the shitty first draft. The potter must center the clay and accept the wobble before a vase can be thrown. The great matter assures us that our time is too precious to wait for perfect conditions. Begin the conversation. Make the imperfect gesture. Write the clumsy first sentence. Fire the lopsided pot. Action in the present, however flawed, is infinitely more alive than a perfect fantasy forever shelved in the future. The great matter transforms procrastination from a bad habit into a profound spiritual error. It recasts delay as a theft from your one undeniable possession: this breath, this hour, this day. Every time you choose presence over postponement, you are not just managing your time better. You are depositing life into the only bank account that matters. The lived experience of your fleeting, miraculous existence. From the dissection of postponement, a new energy is born. Not anxiety, not frantic haste, but a clarified, potent force, urgency. This is the second gift of the great matter. When we stop pretending we have forever, a remarkable focusing of priorities occurs. The trivial falls away. The essential steps forward, shining. This is urgency without panic. It is the steady, determined pace of someone who knows the library is closing, so they select the one perfect book they truly wish to read, rather than frantically grabbing armfuls from the shelves. This clarified urgency is the opposite of what our culture often sells us as productivity. Productivity is often about doing more things faster. Urgency, in this context, is about doing the right things with complete presence. It's the difference between a chef in a busy restaurant, rushing to plate a dozen mediocre dishes, and a sushi master, moving with slow, absolute precision to prepare a single piece of fish. Both are urgent, but one is lost in chaos, the other is the embodiment of focused care. Let's explore this through a story set in the world of emergency medicine, a field built on biological urgency. Dr. Anya Sharma worked in a busy urban ER. Her world was one of literal life and death deadlines, of triage, of split-second decisions under blinding fluorescent lights. The pressure was immense, but it created a bizarre, brutal clarity. There was no time for ego, for office politics, for wondering if you were liked. There was a human in crisis, and a set of protocols to follow, and your entire being had to funnel into that moment. She described it as the purest form of attention I have ever known. Yet, when her shift ended, she would step out into the city and feel a profound dissonance. People around her were stressed about traffic, about a rude comment, about a delayed project, what she called paper-cut emergencies. She found it hard to engage. The contrast was too sharp. She realized the ER had taught her a ferocious lesson in true priority, but she had no framework for applying it to a life not defined by sirens and trauma bays. Her transformation began when she took up rock climbing. Not indoor climbing, but traditional, outdoor climbing where you place your own protective gear. Here, urgency returned, but in a slow, vertical form. A single climb could take all day. Each move required complete mental and physical focus. A mistake wasn't a professional setback, it was a potential fall. She found the same hyperclarity she experienced in the ER, but stretched over hours of silent, intense concentration. She had to be urgently present for every grip, every foot placement, every shift of balance. There was no room for yesterday's argument or tomorrow's meeting. There was only the rock, her body, and the next 6 inches of upward progress. Anya told me, in the ER, urgency is external. It's the monitor beeping, the patient crashing. In climbing, urgency is internal. It's the commitment you make to the move you are in. The great matter, for me, is the ultimate internal urgency. It's the quiet beep of the monitor that says this move, this breath, this conversation is the one you are currently climbing. You will not pass this way again. Don't rush through it to reach the top. Feel every grain of the rock beneath your fingers. That's the whole climb. Anya's journey shows us that the clarity of urgency isn't about speed, it's about significance. It's the quality that makes a moment matter. The great matter injects every moment with potential significance, because it reminds us that our supply of moments is finite. Now, let's consider a different arena, the artist's studio. A painter named Leo worked for years on a single, massive canvas. He would paint for months, then scrape it all away, dissatisfied. He was chasing a vision of perfection that kept receding. He was stuck in the postponement of the final, great work. One day, his young niece visited his studio. She saw the blank, reprimed canvas and a pile of painted-over sketches. "Why did you kill all the pictures?" she asked. Her phrasing shocked him. He wasn't working towards something, he was destroying the evidence of his process. That afternoon, he gave her a small canvas and some paints. She dove in without hesitation, mixing colors with joy, painting a wild, chaotic garden with a purple sun. She finished in an hour, declared it done, and asked to hang it in his studio. Leo looked from her vibrant, fearless, finished mess to his own pristine, empty void. He realized his urgency had been misplaced. It was an urgency to arrive at a masterpiece. Her urgency was to express something now. The great matter, he saw, sides with the child. It says, do not wait for the perfect expression. Express something true now. This canvas, this day, is the one you have. He began a new practice. He would work on small, cheap panels with a timer set for 1 hour. When the timer went off, the piece was finished, signed, and set aside. No revisions. The urgency of the deadline forced him to make decisive marks, to embrace happy accidents, to value energy over refinement. The work that emerged was alive in a way his labored-over epics never were. He had traded the unclear urgency of a distant ideal for the crystal-clear urgency of the present creative act. So, how do we cultivate this clarified urgency in a daily life cluttered with false deadlines and manufactured importance? 1. The "stop doing" list. Complement your to-do list with a "stop doing" list. What activities, commitments, or thought patterns drain your time and blur your focus? The urgency born of the great matter demands ruthless editing. Every "no" to a trivial demand is a "yes" to a potential moment of depth. 2. The one thing practice. At the start of your day, or before any significant block of time, ask, if I could only accomplish one thing with true presence today, what would it be? Let that question cut through the fog of a dozen petty tasks. It might be, have a real conversation with my partner, or spend 30 minutes fully engaged in my craft. Protect that one thing with the urgency it deserves. 3. Embrace artificial deadlines, wisely. Like the painter with his timer, create containers of urgency that force presence. Tell a story to a friend in 5 minutes. Prepare a meal with only the ingredients you have on hand. Write a letter in one sitting without editing. These constraints don't limit creativity, they focus it, creating the clarity that comes from having no time to waste. The great matter teaches us that time is not just passing, it is assigning value. An hour spent in anxious distraction is assigned a low value. An hour spent in absorbed connection is assigned the highest value. The clarity of urgency is our conscious participation in that valuation process. It is our way of saying, this moment is not cheap. I will not spend it on mental clutter. I will invest my entire being in it, because my account of moments is not bottomless, and I am determined to be solvent in experience, not bankrupt in distraction. This urgency is calm. It is focused. It is the deep current beneath a still surface. It is the understanding that now is the only time we are ever actually alive, and therefore, the only time we can ever actually live. As we cultivate clarity and urgency, we often encounter a formidable internal opponent, the ghost of the unlived life. This is the tyranny of the alternative self. It is the haunting, persistent narrative of the person you could have been, the path you didn't take, the decisions you imagine would have led to a shinier, more fulfilled version of you. This phantom is a master of postponement, because it forever locates your real life not in the present, but in a parallel universe of if only. The great matter confronts this tyranny with a simple, undeniable fact: you are here. Not there. The alternative self is a story, a figment woven from memory's selective editing and imagination's airbrushing. It has no bills, no back pain, no regrets, because it does not exist. To devote your precious, finite attention to this ghost is to hand over the keys to your actual life. Psychologists call this counterfactual thinking, the human tendency to create alternatives to past events. In small doses, it helps us learn. But when it becomes a chronic dwelling place, it fuels regret, dissatisfaction, and a crippling sense of being trapped in the wrong life. The great matter asks us to perform a radical act of acceptance, to fully inhabit the life we actually have, with all its cracks and unexpected contours, and to see the beauty in its unique, irreplicable grain. Consider the story of Elena, a former concert cellist. At 19, she was a prodigy, on the cusp of a major solo career. Then, in a moment of horrific luck, she developed focal dystonia in her left hand, a neurological condition that caused her fingers to cramp and curl uncontrollably when she played. Her career evaporated overnight. For a decade, she was a ghost in her own life, teaching beginner students with a hollow cheer, bitterly watching her peers' success, her mind a prison of, if only. If only I'd warmed up differently that day. If only I'd seen a different doctor. If only. Her liberation began in a most unlikely place, a community garden in her dense city neighborhood. Rendered unfit for the precision of the concert hall, her hands, still strong, turned to the soil. She found she could grip a trowel, feel the texture of roots, guide a seedling without the neurological misfire that plagued fine motor skills. At first, it was just therapy. But as seasons passed, she began to listen differently. She heard the symphony not of an orchestra, but of the garden, the rustle of kale leaves like brushed cymbals, the buzz of pollinators as a string section, the wind through the sunflowers a deep, woody bass note. She wasn't making music anymore, she was living inside a piece of music that was always playing. One day, a local elementary school teacher asked if she'd talk to the kids about plants. Nervous, her first instinct was to refuse. But she went. Standing in the garden with 20 small, curious faces, she found herself not lecturing, but guiding their attention. "Close your eyes," she said. "What do you hear? That's the rhythm section. What do you smell? That's the melody." She was teaching them the ear of a musician, but the subject was the living world. In that moment, the phantom of the concert cellist, the alternative self who played on perfect stages, didn't vanish. It simply ceased to be the authority. She realized her musicianship hadn't been destroyed, it had been transposed into a new, wilder, more resilient key. The life she had was not a diminished version of the one she lost. It was a completely different composition, and it required her to listen in a way she never had before. Elena's story shows us that the alternative self is often a fossil of an older identity. The Great Matter asks us to gently bury that fossil and pay attention to what is growing, alive, and possible now, in the soil of our actual circumstances. Now, let's examine this from a broader, cultural lens. In many indigenous wisdom traditions, particularly among various Native American nations, there is a powerful concept of right relationship with one's fate or path. It is not about a life of unlimited choice, but about walking the path that has been given to you with integrity, courage, and humility. Your life is not a mistake or a deviation from some ideal template, it is your unique thread in the larger tapestry. To constantly fantasize about another thread is to dishonor your own role in the weaving. This perspective dismantles the tyranny of the alternative by framing your actual life not as a personal accident, but as a sacred assignment. A modern parable from the world of business reflects this. Two entrepreneurs, Sam and Alex, started similar tech companies at the same time. Sam's company took off, acquired by a giant, making him wealthy by 30. Alex's company slogged along, pivoted multiple times, and by 40, he was running a modest but stable niche software firm. For years, Alex was tortured by Sam's shadow. He attended reunions feeling like a failure, his mind spinning with, if only I'd had that idea, that investor, that break. The shift came when Sam, burned out and disillusioned, came to Alex for advice. Sam confessed that his success had left him feeling empty, disconnected from the work, and surrounded by yes men. He admired what Alex had built, a loyal team, deep expertise in a meaningful domain, a company that felt like a community. Alex, in that moment, saw his own life through someone else's eyes. He saw not the path he didn't take to fleeting riches, but the path he did take to sustained craftsmanship and relationship. The alternative self of the quick-exit millionaire suddenly looked like a hollow shell. He realized he hadn't fallen short of Sam, he had walked a different, longer, more textured road, and was only now appreciating the scenery. So, how do we depose the tyrant within? First, conduct a ghost life funeral. Write down the narrative of your most haunting alternative self. Give it a name. Give it a story. Then, consciously and ritualistically, let it go. Burn the paper. Bury it. Tear it up. Acknowledge it was a possibility, but declare that your energy and loyalty now belong entirely to the person you actually are, in the life you are actually living. Second, practice fierce grounding. When you feel pulled into the if only, aggressively reconnect with your senses. Feel your feet on the floor. Listen to the specific sounds around you. Look at the details of the room you're in. This sensory reality is the undeniable territory of your actual life. The alternative self has no sensory reality. It cannot compete with the vivid truth of the present. Third, reframe your mess as your material. Artists don't lament that they have clay instead of marble. They learn the properties of their material and create from it. Your life, with all its perceived wrong turns, limitations, and scars, is your unique material. The alternative self is a fantasy of different material. Ask yourself, What can I, and only I, create from this? What story can only this life tell? The great matter is the ultimate grounding force. It says the phantom life is a fairy tale with no stakes, because it never encounters an end. Your real life is the heroic journey, precisely because it is finite and real. The alternative self is just a spectator in the stands. The great matter throws you back into the arena, into the glorious, difficult, and singular match that is your own existence. It asks you to stop watching the ghost game on the screen and feel the sweat, the effort, the glorious struggle of the game you are actually playing. This is your field. This is your ball. This is your one and only chance to play. Having confronted the ghosts of unlived lives, we turn to the most tangible and often terrifying arena where the great matter does its work: human connection. This is the domain of the courage of the spoken heart. We live with a tragic paradox. We are social creatures, wired for bonding, yet we so often withhold the very words that would cement those bonds. We armor our hearts with silence, assuming there will be a better, safer, more perfect moment to express love, gratitude, apology, or forgiveness. The great matter ruthlessly exposes this assumption as a gamble with the highest possible stakes. It teaches that the unspoken word is a debt to life that may come due when you can no longer pay. This isn't about dramatic declarations. It's about the simple, vulnerable sentences that weave the fabric of our relationships. I was wrong. That hurt me. I'm proud of you. I need you. I'm afraid. These are the threads, and we treat them as though we have an endless supply. We do not. Think of a forest. The trees are connected through a vast, underground network of mycorrhizal fungi, the wood wide web. Through this network, they share nutrients, send warnings about pests, and support struggling seedlings. Our unspoken truths are like the chemical signals in that network. When we withhold them, we cut off the flow of sustenance. When we express them, we nourish the entire ecosystem of our relationships. Let me tell you about a man named Felix, a Finnish master carpenter known for his silent, stoic demeanor. He expressed care through action, a perfectly fitted dovetail joint on a drawer for his wife, a sturdy treehouse for his grandson. Words were clumsy, unnecessary tools in his workshop of life. His marriage of 40 years was stable, quiet, and increasingly distant. His wife, Eva, was diagnosed with a swift and terminal illness. In her final weeks, Felix cared for her with meticulous, wordless devotion, adjusting pillows, preparing meals, sitting by her bed. But a chasm of unspoken feeling lay between them. One afternoon, Eva, weakened but clear-eyed, took his calloused hand. "Felix," she whispered, "I have loved the house you built for us. The silence in it has been strong and beautiful. But I am going into a very long silence soon. Would you give me some words to take with me?" Felix was shattered. His lifetime of quiet competence felt like a failure. That night, alone in his workshop, surrounded by the scent of pine and maple, he did not pick up a tool. He picked up a pen. He wrote not a grand love letter, but a list. "I love the way you hummed when you gardened. I was terrified when you gave birth to our son, and so proud. I am sorry for the winter I was out of work and took my anger out on you. Thank you for the blue paint in the kitchen. It is the color of my peace. It was a ledger of moments, a mosaic of a shared life seen through the eyes of a quiet man. The next morning, his voice rough with disuse, he read it to her. He stumbled over the sentences, unused to shaping them aloud. When he finished, Eva's eyes were closed, but she was smiling. She squeezed his hand. Now, she said, our house has a soundtrack. Felix had, at the 11th hour, learned that while love can be built in silence, it must be inhabited with sound. The great matter had forced his heart to find its voice. The words didn't change the outcome, but they changed everything about the journey to it. They completed the circuit. Now, consider this courage in a cultural context where expression is highly formalized. In Japan, there is a concept called ame, which describes the comfort of depending on another's love, a presumption of indulgence. But this deep interdependence often exists within a framework of social restraint, enryo, where direct emotional expression can be muted. The deepest feelings are communicated through gesture, nuance, and unspoken understanding, through the perfect gift, homage. Through the diligent performance of duty, giri, through the art of listening, chinmaku o kiku, to hear the silence. Here, the spoken heart may not be literally spoken. The courage lies in the precision and depth of the gesture, in the commitment to an action that speaks volumes in the culturally understood language of care. The great matter, in such a context, might urge not a sudden flood of Western-style confession, but a deepening and intentionality in those silent languages. Making sure the gift is utterly perfect, the duty performed with unmistakable love, the listening absolutely complete. So, how do we cultivate this courage, in the daily fabric of our lives? First, the three-sentence rule. When a feeling of gratitude, love, or apology arises, challenge yourself to express it in 3 clear sentences. Delivered directly. Not in a text, but face-to-face, or voice-to-voice. I was thinking about you today. I really appreciate how you handled that situation last week. It meant a lot to me. The simplicity and immediacy bypass the procrastination of eloquence. Second, practice front-loading hard conversations. We save the hardest talks for last, letting resentment build. The great matter encourages front-loading. Have the awkward conversation, now. State your need, your boundary, your hurt, with kindness and clarity, before it fossilizes into unspoken resentment. The short-term discomfort is nothing compared to the long-term erosion of silence. Third, become an archaeologist of the positive. We are quick to voice criticism. Make a practice of digging for the positive, unspoken truth, and giving it voice. Tell your colleague not just that their report was good, but which specific insight helped you. Tell your friend not just that you enjoy their company, but what quality in them makes you feel that way. This moves praise from generic to nourishing. The neuroscience here is profound. When we express vulnerable truth and are met with acceptance, our brain releases oxytocin, the bonding hormone, strengthening connection and reducing fear. When we withhold, We live in a state of low-grade stress, the body sensing a social threat. The spoken heart isn't just poetry, it's neurobiological hygiene. The great matter removes the luxury of indefinite delay. It asks, what if this is the last time you see this person? What is the one true thing you would want them to know? This question isn't meant to fill every parting with morbid gravity, but to infuse our daily interactions with a quality of completeness. It encourages us to leave no essential truth dangling, to make our emotional ledger as clear as we hope to make our spiritual one. The courage to speak the heart is the practice of leaving no love unexpressed, no gratitude unvoiced, no forgiveness unoffered. It is the work of ensuring that if the conversation were to end abruptly, its last note would be one of resonant, human truth. As we find the courage to speak our hearts, we inevitably encounter the backlog of the unspoken, the unresolved, the incomplete. This leads us to a critical and liberating stage, the forgiveness of the unfinished. We carry a hidden burden, the belief that our lives, our projects, our relationships, should reach a state of perfect completion. We imagine a finish line of resolution where all loose ends are tied, all questions answered, all wounds healed. The great matter, which reveals life as an inherently finite process, shatters this illusion. It teaches that incompletion is not failure, it is the natural state of things. To live fully is to make peace with the symphony that ends mid-phrase, the painting left with a corner sketched in charcoal, the conversation that had no formal goodbye. This is not an excuse for laziness, but a profound acceptance of process over product. A tree is never finished. It is always growing, decaying, shedding, budding. Its beauty is in its ongoingness. Our lives are the same. The pressure for a finished life leads to a frantic, despairing attempt to tidy up what is inherently messy and alive. The great matter invites us to forgive ourselves and our circumstances for all that remains unresolved, and to see the raw, open-ended beauty in that very state. Consider the story of Mateo, an archivist in the National Library of a South American country. His life's work was organizing the papers of a renowned, tumultuous novelist who died suddenly. The archive was a chaos of half-written chapters, scribbled notes on napkins, passionate letters to estranged lovers, and outlines for grand, unrealized trilogies. For years, Mateo approached this like a detective solving a crime, trying to assemble the true narrative of the writer's intentions, to create a finished catalog of a finished life. It was defeating him. The story wouldn't cohere. The novels were interrupted, the relationships fractured, the grandest plans mere ghosts on note cards. Mateo grew frustrated, seeing only tragedy in the incompletion. One rainy season, a leak damaged a box of the writer's childhood notebooks. As Mateo carefully dried the pages, he found not stories, but observations. The lizard on the wall is the color of dried time. The sound of my mother's scissors through cloth is like a slow kiss. The rain on the tin roof tonight is playing the rhythm of my heartbeat. Page after page of pure, present-tense perception, with no narrative arc whatsoever. In that moment, Mateo's understanding flipped. He had been looking for the finished plot of the writer's life. But the writer's genius wasn't in his completed novels, it was in his relentless, unfinished attention. The fragments weren't failures of completion, they were testaments to a mind perpetually engaged with the sensory world. The unfinished archive was the perfect record of a life lived in passionate, ongoing dialogue with reality. Matteo stopped trying to force a conclusion. His catalog became a celebration of fragments, of questions, of brilliant beginnings that promised nothing. He had forgiven the unfinished, and in doing so, had discovered its aliveness. Now, let's examine this through the lens of nature, the ultimate teacher of cycles without clean endings. In a forest, what we call death is not an end but a transformation. The fallen log is not finished, it is becoming nurse log, habitat, soil. The crumbling leaf is not a failure, it is becoming next year's growth. There is no final, tidy state. There is only continual, messy, magnificent recycling. The Japanese aesthetic of wabi-sabi finds beauty in imperfection, impermanence, and incompleteness, the cracked teacup repaired with gold, kintsugi, the mossy, asymmetrical garden stone. This aesthetic is a philosophical embrace of the unfinished as the most authentic and beautiful state. A modern, personal story. My own father was a passionate gardener who dreamed of cultivating a specific, rare heritage rose. He ordered the rootstock, prepared the bed with meticulous care, and nurtured the young plant for 2 seasons. It grew strong, but never bloomed. The 3rd spring, as the first tiny bud formed, he passed away suddenly. For my family, that rosebush was a heart-wrenching symbol of his unfinished work. We tended it out of duty, but it felt like a monument to interruption. That summer, the rose finally bloomed. A single, astonishing blossom of a color I have never seen before or since, a deep, velvety crimson with an almost black shadow at its heart. It was breathtaking, and it felt like a message. It wasn't a completed project, it was a final, perfect gesture. It didn't resolve his absence. It spoke from within it. We pressed that single rose. It wasn't the garden he planned, but it was a complete and perfect expression of his care, arriving on its own schedule. We had to forgive the unfinished garden to receive the gift of that one, finished flower. So, how do we practice this forgiveness of the unfinished, in our own lives? First, embrace the good enough send-off. For projects, relationships, or phases of life that feel unresolved. Create a conscious ritual of good enough. Write a letter to the project, summarizing what it taught you, even if it's incomplete. Have an internal conversation with a person you can't reconcile with, stating your piece, and then consciously releasing the need for their response. This is not about closure as the world defines it, but about granting yourself permission to be at peace with the unresolved. Second, celebrate the fragment. Start a book of fragments. Jot down half ideas, beautiful sentences that go nowhere, sketches of dreams you know you'll never fulfill. Don't judge them as failed wholes. Appreciate them as beautiful shards, mosaics of your mental and emotional life. They are not unfinished novels, they are completed moments of inspiration. Third, shift from completing to engaging. Ask not, how can I finish this? But, how can I engage with this fully today? The writer who writes one true sentence has completed a valuable act. The gardener who weeds one bed has moved in harmony with the process. The parent who has one patient conversation has built a piece of the eternal, unfinished project of love. Value the quality of the engagement, not the illusion of a final product. The great matter forces our hand. With a finite timeline, we must abandon the child's fantasy of a perfectly wrapped life. We must adopt the artist's maturity, who knows the work is never truly done, only abandoned at a point where it has something to say. Our lives are these works. Forgiveness of the unfinished is the ultimate act of self-compassion and realism. It allows us to rest in the middle of the sentence, to find peace in the unresolved chord, to see the beauty in the garden that is mostly promise and one breathtaking, singular bloom. It is the understanding that we are not here to produce finished products, but to be vivid, engaged processes. And a process, by its very nature, is always beautifully, exquisitely unfinished. Having made peace with the unfinished, we arrive at a profound and practical destination, the ritual of the ordinary. When the grand narratives of achievement and completion fall away, what remains is the granular texture of daily life. The morning coffee, the commute, the preparing of a meal, the sorting of laundry. These are the moments we most often sleepwalk through, considering them mere filler between the important events. The great matter performs an astonishing alchemy on this mundane material. It reveals the ordinary not as trivial, but as the sacred ground of existence. It is in these repetitive, unglamorous acts that we have our most consistent contact with the raw fact of being alive. Therefore, to infuse them with attention is to consecrate our lives. A ritual is not mere routine. Routine is automatic, performed with the mind elsewhere. A ritual is routine performed with conscious intention and presence. It is the same action, brewing tea, but one is a chore, the other is a ceremony. The great matter turns the potential for ritual into a daily imperative. This tea, this morning, this breath, these are not guaranteed again. Let me tell you about a woman named Hannah, who ran a small, centuries-old ryokan, a traditional inn, in the Japanese Alps. Her day was a relentless cycle of ordinary tasks, scrubbing the wooden baths, ofuro, preparing futons, whisking matcha, arranging simple kaiseki meals. To an outsider, it might look like a life of servitude. But for Hannah, each task was a kata, a form to be practiced with mindful precision. Scrubbing the bath was not about removing dirt. It was an act of preparing a vessel for purification. Folding a futon was not about tidying a room, it was an act of creating a space for rest and dreams. Whisking tea was a meditation in motion, creating a moment of shared stillness for a guest. Hannah explained it to me once, when my grandmother taught me to clean the stone step at the entrance. She said, "You are not cleaning a step. You are welcoming the guest's first contact with our home. Make it sincere. This is how I see my life. I am not doing chores. I am performing the rituals of care. The great matter. It is my head priest. It whispers, Hannah, this guest, this bath, this bowl of rice, it is here now. It is your only chance to do this for them. Do it completely. For Hannah, the awareness of impermanence didn't lead to grand gestures, it led to a deeper commitment to the humble, daily gestures. Her life was a masterpiece of ordinary ritual. Now, contrast this with a story from the hypermodern world. Leo was a data analyst in Singapore, his life a blur of screens, algorithms, and delivered meals. He felt a deep sense of disconnection, of living in the abstract. His wake-up call was a power outage that lasted a weekend. With no devices, delivery apps, or distractions, he was forced into the ordinary. He had to walk to a market, select vegetables by feel and sight, chop them with a knife, cook them on a gas stove. It was frustratingly slow. But as he focused on the color of a bell pepper, the sound of onions sizzling, the smell of ginger hitting hot oil, something shifted. He wasn't analyzing nutrients or optimizing a meal plan. He was engaged in the creation of sustenance. The ordinary act of cooking, which he had outsourced for years, became a profound ritual of self-care and presence. He realized he had been paying to avoid the very experiences that grounded him in his humanity. The great matter, via a blackout, had forced him back into the ritual of his own survival, and he found it strangely joyous. The science of habit formation tells us that routines free cognitive resources. But when those routines become mindless, they create a life on autopilot, devoid of texture. The practice is to take a routine and consciously elevate it to a ritual by injecting one element of mindful attention. This is where we reclaim our lives from the domain of the automatic. So, how do we transform the ordinary into the ritual? First, choose one daily anchor. Select one utterly ordinary daily act, making your bed, showering, washing a dish, walking to your car. For 1 week, perform this act as a sacred ritual. Move slowly. Feel every sensation. Intended as an act of care for yourself or your space. Let it be your daily meditation. The bed making becomes the creation of order and peace. The shower becomes a cleansing of more than dirt. Second, practice gratitude in the grain. Instead of general gratitude, like, I'm grateful for my home, drill down into the ordinary specifics. I am grateful for the exact way the afternoon light falls across this worn floorboard. I am grateful for the weight and warmth of this mug. I am grateful for the sound of the refrigerator humming, the sound of preserved abundance. This practice marries gratitude with hyper-present attention, sanctifying the details. Third, institute analog interludes. Deliberately create small pockets of time where you engage in an ordinary, non-digital activity, with full focus. Mend a piece of clothing. Repot a plant. Sharpen a knife. Write a note with a pen. Do it not for efficiency, but for the quality of the engagement itself. Feel the thread, the soil, the steel, the ink. These are rituals of connection to the physical world. The great matter is the ultimate rationale for this practice. It argues that since we cannot know which ordinary moment will be our last, we must treat each one as a potential final note. The last sip of water, the last glimpse of a tree outside a window, the last feeling of a loved one's hand, these will likely be ordinary moments. If we have trained ourselves to sleep through the ordinary, we will sleep through the finale of our own lives. But if we have practiced seeing the cathedral in the kitchen, the symphony in the street sounds, the sacred text in a partner's sleepy morning face, then we are preparing ourselves to meet even the final ordinary moment with awe and presence. The ritual of the ordinary is the democratization of the sacred. It declares that no special equipment, location, or title is required for a holy life. Holiness is available in the next breath, the next step, the next mundane task performed with a heart full of attention. It is the quiet, continuous celebration of the miracle of being here at all, expressed not in hymns, but in the conscientious way we stir the soup, or listen to the rain, or tie our shoes. From the sanctuary of the ordinary, our gaze naturally turns outward, to the horizon of our own ending, and to the question that arises there: what will remain? Our culture often answers with monuments, wealth bequeathed, buildings named, companies founded, fame secured. But the great matter, which sees all solid things as temporary, invites a different, more fluid understanding. This is legacy as ripple, not monument. A monument is static, it erodes. A ripple is dynamic, it travels, transforms, and merges with other currents long after the initial stone has sunk. Your true legacy is not in what you build to withstand time, but in the quality of the disturbances, the kindness, the truth, the courage, you introduce into the field of life, which then propagate in ways you will never see. This is not a passive metaphor. It is a call to conscious participation in the physics of influence. Every action, word, and even thought sends energetic patterns into the world. The great matter asks us to consider: are we sending out ripples of anxiety and haste, or ripples of calm and attention? Are we adding to the chaos, or to a subtler, more harmonious order? Consider the story of Elijah, a quiet custodian in a large urban hospital. He did not save lives directly. He mopped floors, emptied bins, wiped down surfaces. He saw the raw edges of human fear, grief, and exhaustion daily. His legacy, by monumental standards, was non-existent. But Elijah had a ritual. For every patient's room he cleaned, especially those of the long-term or terminal patients, he would leave one small, deliberate gesture of care. A windowsill wiped to a sparkling clarity so they could see the sky. A fresh paper cup folded into a precise origami crane placed on the bedside table. A single flower from the hospital grounds in a water glass. He never signed them. He never stayed to be thanked. Years after Elijah retired, a renowned surgeon was giving a talk on the unseen elements of healing. He told a story of a difficult, despairing patient in a long recovery who became fixated on the daily appearance of a perfectly folded paper star on his tray. That star, the surgeon said, became the patient's reason to make it through the next 24 hours. He was convinced it was a secret sign from the universe that he was seen. It gave him hope. It changed his entire recovery trajectory. The surgeon had tried to find the source to thank them, but never could. Elijah, watching the talk on a small TV in his retirement apartment, smiled quietly. He had folded that star. His ripple, a tiny act of anonymous beauty, had traveled through the darkness of a stranger's pain and altered its course. That was his monument, a current of grace in a sterile hallway. Now, let's examine this through a scientific lens. The concept of neuroplasticity and social contagion. Our brains are shaped by our interactions. A moment of patience from a stranger can literally alter the neural pathways of a stressed person, making them more likely to be patient with the next person they meet. A teacher's belief in a student can rewire that student's self-concept. These are ripples at the cellular level. The great matter underscores that we are constantly, biologically, leaving imprints on the minds and hearts of others. The question is not if we leave a legacy, but what kind of neural and emotional architecture we are helping to build in the collective mind. A different story, from the world of ecology. In the Pacific Northwest, there's a phenomenon known as a salmon forest. When salmon return from the ocean to spawn and die in their natal streams, their carcasses are carried into the forest by bears and eagles. The nutrients from their ocean-fed bodies fertilize the soil, feeding the giant trees. Those trees, in turn, shade the streams, keeping them cool for the next generation of salmon. The legacy of one salmon run is not just more salmon, it is taller trees, richer soil, and a more resilient entire ecosystem. The salmon's monument is not a statue, it is a forest that stands for centuries, nourished by its death. Our lives are like this. Our nutrients, our love, our lessons, our acts of integrity, are carried into the future by the people we touch, feeding growth we will never witness. So, how do we live a ripple-centric life? First, practice stealth kindness. Do something genuinely kind, with absolutely no possibility of recognition or reward. Pay for the coffee of the person behind you in line, and leave before they know. Leave a thoughtful book on a park bench with a note saying, "For you." Clean up a piece of litter that isn't yours. These are pure ripple-generating acts. They train you to value impact over credit. Second, mind your emotional emissions. Just as we are now conscious of our carbon footprint, become conscious of your emotional footprint. What is the ambient feeling you leave in a room after you depart? Is it lighter, calmer, more inspired? Or is it heavier, charged with anxiety or judgment? Your mere presence is a continuous ripple. Choose its quality consciously. Third, become a beneficial disturbance. In ecology, some disturbances, like a low-intensity fire, are necessary for the health of the ecosystem. In your community or workplace, dare to be a beneficial disturbance. Ask the naive but profound question that challenges groupthink. Initiate the awkward but necessary conversation about values. Plant the seed of a beautiful, impractical idea. You may not see it grow, but you have changed the soil. The great matter liberates us from the ego's desperate need for a named, enduring monument. It says, you are part of a flowing system. You do not need to stand forever as a stone. It is more beautiful, and more true, to become a wave. Let your life be a beneficial perturbation in the field. The love you offered in a moment of weakness will ripple into a future argument soothed. The truth you spoke when it was difficult will ripple into a future decision made with integrity. The patience you showed a child will ripple into their adulthood as resilience. Your name may be forgotten. Your specific deeds may blur. But the vibrational quality of your presence, the frequency of care, honesty, or courage you broadcast, will be absorbed into the world's field. It will combine with other, similar frequencies. It will, in unseen ways, make it infinitesimally easier for the next person to choose kindness, for the next heart to risk love, for the next mind to think clearly. This is the only legacy that is both humble and infinite. It is the legacy of the stone that sinks without a sound, but whose circles widen to touch shores you will never walk upon. As we consider the ripples we send into the world, we must turn our attention to the very instrument of that transmission, ourselves. Not the thinking self, but the feeling, sensing, present self. This brings us to the wisdom of the body. We are not ghosts piloting machines. We are these bodies. And in our culture of abstraction, of living through screens, concepts, and future plans, we have become profoundly disembodied. We treat the body as a vehicle to carry the brain to meetings, or as a problem to be optimized, judged, and disciplined. The great matter is a fierce corrective to this exile. It shouts, in no uncertain terms, you are here. Not in the hypothetical future, not in the nostalgic past, but here, in this pulsing, breathing, aching, glorious physical form. To ignore the body is to ignore the primary site of your aliveness, and to miss the constant, gentle teaching of impermanence it offers. The body is the original mindfulness bell. It speaks in the language of sensation, hunger, fatigue, pleasure, pain, the cool breeze on skin, the weight of a blanket. These are not distractions from spiritual life, they are its very fabric. They are the proof of your current, temporary existence. A headache, a sore muscle, the flush of warmth. These are immediate, undeniable experiences of the present. They yank us out of the storylines in our head and into the raw data of being. Let me tell you about a dancer named Cosima. For decades, her body was her instrument, her art, her identity. She pushed it to its limits, celebrated its abilities, and curated its appearance. Then, in her late 40s, a chronic autoimmune illness arrived. Her body was no longer a compliant instrument. It became a mysterious, often hostile, territory of pain, fatigue, and limitation. The career she knew ended. At first, she fell into a deep depression, feeling betrayed by the very thing that had defined her. Her healing began not with overcoming the illness, but with a radical change in relationship to her body. Instead of seeing it as a failed dancer, she began to treat it as a wounded companion. She started a practice of listening to it. Not with diagnosis, but with curiosity. Lying still, she would scan for sensation. What does the pain in my knee actually feel like today? Is it a burning, a throbbing, a coldness? She began to notice subtler things, the way sunlight felt different on her skin in the morning versus the afternoon, the specific texture of hunger that preceded a flare-up, the gentle, almost imperceptible rhythm of her own heartbeat when she was still enough to feel it. In this attentive listening, a strange thing happened. The body she had thought was her enemy began to communicate a profound, nonverbal wisdom. It taught her about pacing, about true rest, about the kindness of simple comforts like warmth and quiet. It forced her into a present-moment awareness more acute than any she had achieved on stage. Cosima told me, I spent my life using my body to express stories. Now, my body is the story. And it is a story of fragility, patience, and sensory depth I never knew existed. The great matter didn't just make me mortal, it made me physical. And being fully physical, in this broken, beautiful vessel, is a deeper art than any dance I ever performed. Now, consider this from the perspective of ancient wisdom traditions. In many forms of yoga, particularly Hatha yoga, the practice is not merely exercise. It is a deliberate, mindful exploration of the body's limits and sensations, asana, paired with breath awareness, pranayama. Designed to prepare the practitioner for meditation. The body is the gateway. You cannot still the mind if you are at war with the flesh that houses it. Similarly, in the Buddhist meditation practice of vipassana or insight meditation, practitioners often begin with a body scan, observing sensations without reaction. This grounds awareness in the undeniable reality of the present physical experience, the ever-changing, anicca. Flow of sensations that directly mirrors the impermanent nature of all things. The body, in its constant flux, is a living sermon on the great matter. A modern, scientific parallel is the field of interoception, the sense of the internal state of the body. Research shows that poor interoception is linked to anxiety, dissociation, and emotional dysregulation. Good interoception, the ability to accurately feel your heartbeat, your breath, your gut feelings, is linked to better emotional regulation, decision-making, and a stronger sense of self. The great matter, by valuing present experience, naturally directs us to hone this sense. It asks us to come home to the body's intelligence. So, how do we inhabit the wisdom of the body? First, the daily body scan. Take 5 minutes, lying down or seated comfortably. Mentally scan from the crown of your head to the tips of your toes. Don't try to change anything. Just notice. Is there tension? Warmth? Coolness? Tingling? Heaviness? Lightness? Ache? Simply label the sensations. Pressure. Tingle. Warmth. This is not a medical exam, it is a reacquaintance. It trains interoception, and grounds you in the present. Second, walk as if the earth is loving your feet. Transform a routine walk into a sensory immersion. Feel the transfer of weight from heel to toe. Notice the texture of the ground through your shoes. Feel the air temperature on your face and hands. Hear the rhythm of your own footsteps. Walk not to get somewhere, but to feel the miracle of bipedal locomotion. Your body is performing an act of incredible engineering with every step. Be present for it. Third, eat one meal a week in silence. Choose a meal to eat without distraction. No phone, no book, no TV. Eat slowly. Pay attention to the colors, smells, textures, and flavors of each bite. Notice the sensations of chewing, swallowing, and the feeling of fullness arising. This turns a biological necessity into a ritual of gratitude and sensory celebration. It reconnects you to the profound fact that the world is literally becoming you. The great matter makes the body not a prison, but a profound teacher and companion. Its aches remind us of our fragility. Its pleasures remind us of our capacity for joy. Its inevitable decline is the most personal, intimate instruction in impermanence we will ever receive. To befriend the body, to listen to its wisdom, is to stop living as a disembodied idea and to start inhabiting your actual, temporary, magnificent life. It is to understand that enlightenment, if it means anything, must be felt in the bones, known in the breath, and lived through the senses. The final lesson of the body is this: you are not having an experience, you are the experience. And this experience is happening right here, right now, in this flesh, in this breath. Don't miss it by living in the abstract. Feel it. Building from the grounded wisdom of the body, we now venture into a more subtle, yet fundamental, territory, the illusion of the separate self. Our entire modern worldview is constructed around the I. A discrete, independent, enduring entity housed in our skull, looking out at a world of others. This sense of self feels so real, so solid. It is the main character of our personal story, the holder of our opinions, the experiencer of our pain and pleasure. Yet, the great matter, in its relentless questioning, points to a startling possibility: this separate, solid self is a construction, a narrative, a useful fiction. And seeing through this illusion is perhaps the deepest liberation it offers. Why? Because the fear of death is, at its core, the fear of the annihilation of this I. If the I is not what we think it is, then what, exactly, is there to be annihilated? This is not a nihilistic denial of existence, but an inquiry into its true nature. It asks, are you the static noun, or are you the dynamic verb? Are you the wave, desperately trying to hold its shape, or are you the water, temporarily formed, always flowing? Let's explore this through science first. Neurobiology reveals there is no single, command center, in the brain. Consciousness is an emergent property of billions of neurons firing in complex networks. Your memories are not stored in one place like a film reel, they are reconstructed each time you recall them. Your personality is a shifting constellation of traits influenced by hormones, environment, and even gut bacteria. The brain itself completely replaces its molecules over time. Where, in this ever-changing flux, is the permanent, unchanging you? The body you had at 10 is gone. The beliefs you held at 20 have likely changed. That self is a process, not a thing. Now, a story. Aisha was a conflict mediator, working in regions torn by ethnic and religious strife. She had seen the devastating results of identification with a separate, solid self. I am this tribe, this faith, this nation, and you are the threatening other. Her work was to help people see the human behind the label. Her own breakthrough came during a silent meditation retreat. After days of watching her thoughts rage like a storm, a moment of utter exhaustion arrived. The effort to maintain Aisha the mediator, Aisha the good practitioner, even Aisha the thinker, collapsed. In that collapse, there was simply awareness. Sounds arose, birdsong, wind, without a listener separate from them. Sensations of breath flowed without an owner of the breath. Thoughts appeared and vanished like clouds in a vast sky. There was no center, just a boundless, peaceful experiencing. The feeling was not of disappearance, but of profound expansion. The hard shell of me had dissolved, and what was left was not nothing, but a vibrant, intelligent space that contained everything. When she returned to her work, something had fundamentally shifted. She didn't feel she was Aisha helping those people. She felt she was a focal point in a field of shared suffering and shared humanity. Her listening became deeper because she wasn't listening as someone with an agenda, she was simply listening. Her words carried more weight because they came not from a separate ego, but from that shared space of awareness. She told me, the great matter showed me that the wall between self and other is what makes death so terrifying. But if that wall is an illusion, then what I am cannot be born and cannot die. It can only change form. My work now is to help others feel the permeability of their own walls. Consider this through the lens of ecology. Where does a river begin and end? Is the rain cloud separate from the river? Is the river separate from the delta, the ocean, the evaporating water that becomes the cloud again? We draw lines on maps for convenience, but the water itself knows no such boundaries. It is one continuous, cycling system. In the same way, your body is a temporary confluence of elements from the earth, the air, the food you eat, all borrowed, all to be returned. Your mind is a confluence of ideas, language, and influences from your culture, your family, every book you've read, every conversation you've had. The notion of a separate, self-generated you is as arbitrary as drawing a line around a particular gallon of water in the ocean and calling it separate. So, how do we work with this profound insight, without it becoming just another abstract concept? First, practice self-inquiry in small moments. When a strong emotion arises, anger, jealousy, pride, ask, to whom does this appear? Don't analyze the emotion. Just look for the supposed feeler of it. Is there a solid entity there, or is there just the emotion itself, arising in awareness? This gentle inquiry begins to create space between pure awareness and the content it holds. Second, notice interdependence in the mundane. Drink a glass of water. Trace its journey mentally, the clouds, the rain, the reservoir, the pipes. The workers who maintain them, the glassmaker, the store clerk. See how this simple act connects you to the entire world. You are not a separate consumer, you are a node in a vast, living network of giving and receiving. This undermines the myth of independence. Third, engage in, for the sake of, activities. Do something purely for the sake of the doing, where the result offers no enhancement to your personal story or status. Clean a public space. Help a stranger with no possibility of thanks. Create something beautiful, and give it away anonymously. These actions weaken the ego's grip, because they provided no fuel. The great matter does not ask us to erase our personality or our functional identity in the world. We still have a name, a history, responsibilities. Rather, it invites us to hold that identity lightly, like a costume we wear for a particular play, rather than mistaking it for our fundamental substance. When we do this, a miraculous thing happens. Life becomes less personal. Suffering, when it comes, is experienced as a passing weather pattern in awareness, not as a fundamental assault on me. Joy is received as a gift to awareness, not a trophy for the ego. And the fear of death transforms. The anxiety is not about the end of a separate self, but about the end of a particular, beloved pattern of experience, a story we are fond of. And we can say goodbye to a beloved story with grief and gratitude, without the terror of absolute annihilation. This is the ultimate gift, to realize you are not a fragile, separate droplet fearing evaporation. You are the water itself. And the water has always been, and will always be, simply changing form. From the understanding of the illusory, separate self flows a natural and essential practice, the practice of non-clinging. If the self is fluid and the world is in constant change, then our deepest suffering arises from one source, our desperate attempt to grasp, hold, and freeze what is inherently fluid and fleeting. We cling to pleasant experiences, wanting them to last forever. We cling to our youth, our health, our identities. We cling to people, wanting them to never change or leave. And we cling with equal fervor to aversions, pushing away pain, illness, loss, and anything that reminds us of our vulnerability. This dual grasping and pushing is the engine of our distress. The great matter is the ultimate teacher of non-clinging because it demonstrates, beyond any argument, that clinging is a guaranteed losing battle. Everything you love will change. Everything you have will be lost. This is not pessimism, it is the fundamental architecture of reality. Non-clinging is not cold detachment, it is the wise and compassionate art of loving fully without demanding permanence. Think of your hand. Clenched tightly into a fist, it can hold nothing. It is tense, exhausted, and closed to new experience. Open, relaxed, and receptive, it can receive a gift, touch a loved one, feel the rain. Non-clinging is the open hand of the heart. Let me tell you about a renowned potter named Kaito, who lived in a remote village in Shiga, Japan. He was famous for his tea bowls, each one unique, possessing a wild, natural beauty. Collectors paid enormous sums for them. Kaito's secret was his relationship to the firing process. He used a traditional anagama kiln, a wood-fired dragon of a thing that burned for days at ferocious, unpredictable temperatures. Ash would melt into glaze, flames would lick the pots, creating unpredictable patterns. For decades, Kaito would anguish over each firing. He had a vision for each pot, and he would cling to that vision, desperate for the kiln to obey his intention. The results were often technically perfect, but he felt they lacked soul. They felt tight, controlled. A profound shift happened after the Great East Japan earthquake. His studio was damaged, and many of his carefully stored works were shattered. In the rubble, he found a single tea bowl, half buried, cracked but whole. It was one of his earliest, imperfect pieces, long forgotten. Holding it, he saw not the crack, but the evidence of a young man's joy in the clay, free from the pressure of reputation. The earthquake had shattered his illusion of control. When he rebuilt, he changed his practice. Before loading the kiln, he would hold each unfired pot, appreciate its form, and then whisper to it, "Now, you go on your journey. I release you." He would place it in the kiln not as its master, but as its collaborator with the fire. He accepted that the flames and ash were the true artists in the final act. The pots that emerged were breathtaking. They had a wild, liberated beauty that moved people to tears. Kaito had stopped clinging to outcome. He engaged with total dedication in the making, and then practiced total surrender in the firing. His art became not an expression of his will, but a collaboration with impermanence itself. The great matter had entered his kiln. Now, consider this from the perspective of modern psychology, specifically acceptance and commitment therapy, ACT. ACT doesn't seek to eliminate difficult thoughts and feelings, which is a form of clinging to their absence. Instead, it teaches psychological flexibility, to accept the presence of pain, to hold it lightly, and to still commit to values-based action. This is non-clinging in clinical practice. Fighting anxiety often amplifies it. Noticing it with acceptance. "Ah, there's that familiar tightness in my chest," allows it to pass through like weather. The great matter is the ultimate acceptance practice. It asks us to accept the central, non-negotiable condition of existence, its finitude. From that radical acceptance, a commitment to valued living can flower without being poisoned by the demand for safety or guarantee. A personal story from my own life involves my grandfather's pocket watch. It was a beautiful, old thing, and he promised it to me. I coveted it. I imagined wearing it, feeling connected to him. When he passed, it was discovered that the watch had been lost years before. I was disproportionately devastated. I had clung to the idea of the watch as a talisman of his love and my heritage. In my mourning, I realized I was mourning an object that no longer existed, instead of simply feeling the loss of the man. The love, the lessons, the stories, those were real. The watch was just a symbol I had clenched in my mental fist. Letting go of my attachment to the specific object allowed the true legacy, the intangible one, to flow more freely. My clinging had been a blockage. So, how do we cultivate this essential practice, in daily life? First, This too meditation. When experiencing any strong sensation or emotion, pleasure, pain, boredom, joy, mentally note, this is a pleasant experience. It will change. Or, this is an unpleasant experience. It will change. This simple labeling, rooted in the truth of impermanence, creates a small but crucial gap between you and the experience. It allows you to experience it fully, without fusing with it. Second, practice intentional letting go with small objects. Choose a small possession you are mildly attached to, a book, a piece of clothing, a decorative item. Give it away, or simply place it in a donation box. Notice the minor pang of clinging, and consciously breathe through it. You are training the muscle of release, on a manageable scale. Third, engage in an activity with no goal. Spend an afternoon walking with no destination. Draw or paint with no intention of creating a good picture. Garden without a vision for how it should look. Practice the activity purely for the engagement itself, releasing all attachment to the outcome. This trains the mind in process-oriented joy, free from the clutch of result. Non-clinging is the art of swimming in the river of change without desperately grabbing for the banks. It is loving your child fiercely while knowing they are not yours, but a life entrusted to your care for a brief season. It is working diligently on a project while holding the result lightly. It is receiving a compliment or a criticism without letting it define you. It is feeling grief without becoming grief. The great matter assures us that clinging is the source of our deepest anguish. In teaching us to release our grip, on things, on people, on outcomes, on life itself, it does not leave us with nothing. It leaves us with freedom. It leaves us with the capacity to love this moment, this person, this breath, precisely because we are not demanding it last forever. We are free to love it for exactly what it is, a temporary, breathtaking gift. Closely entwined with the practice of non-clinging is the unavoidable curriculum of life, the teacher of loss. If non-clinging is the philosophy, loss is its practical examination. We can intellectually understand impermanence, but it is in the visceral, heart-cracking experience of loss, of a person, a dream, a ability, a home, that the great matter moves from concept to bone-deep knowing. We instinctively see loss as the enemy, as life's great failure. But what if we could reframe it? What if loss is not the antithesis of life, but its most profound and unavoidable teacher? The great matter insists that loss is not a bug in the system, it is a core feature. And within its harsh curriculum lies the potential for our deepest growth, compassion, and appreciation. Loss strips away. It is a forceful, often brutal, act of subtraction. And in that stripped bare state, we can see what remains when the familiar props are gone. We see the strength of our own spine. We see the true contours of love, which is not possession but essence. We see what was always there but hidden by the clutter of having. Let me tell you about a woman named Anya, a principal cellist for a major European orchestra. Her identity, her joy, her social world, were the cello. At 52, she developed a degenerative condition in her left shoulder. It wasn't sudden, it was a slow, excruciating theft. She could no longer hold the instrument for a full rehearsal, then not for a single piece, then not at all. The loss was catastrophic. She fell into a depression she described as living in a silent, gray room. The turning point came not in a grand insight, but in exhaustion. She stopped trying to fix it or find a replacement passion. She simply sat in the silence of her apartment, day after day, with the grief. And in that stillness, her ears, trained for decades to dissect complex harmonies, began to hear her ordinary environment with new acuity. She heard the intricate, three-part rhythm of her neighbor's footsteps upstairs. She heard the specific pitch of the wind against different windows. She heard the almost imperceptible hum of her refrigerator as a sustained, low C. Driven by a musician's curiosity, she began to record these sounds with a simple handheld device. She wandered her city, not as a commuter, but as a sonic archaeologist. The clang of a tram bell, the murmur of a market, the isolated laugh from a cafe. These became her score. She began to layer these recordings, creating soundscapes that were strange, beautiful, and deeply evocative of place and moment. She was no longer a cellist, but she had become a composer of a new kind, using the raw audio of life itself. She told me, "The great matter took my cello. In return, it gave me the whole world as an instrument. I had to lose the one note to hear the symphony I was already living inside." Loss had not destroyed her artistry. It had transfigured it, broadening it beyond anything she could have imagined. Now, consider this through the lens of ecology and forest fires. In many ecosystems, periodic fire is essential. It clears out dense undergrowth, returns nutrients to the soil, and triggers the germination of seeds that require the heat of flames to open. The loss is real and dramatic, trees are consumed, habitat is altered. But the system depends on this loss for its overall health and renewal. Our personal losses can function in the same way. They burn away the undergrowth of trivial concerns, false identities, and taken for granted assumptions. They return the nutrients of our attention to the soil of our soul. And they create the necessary heat and space for new seeds, new understandings, new capacities, new depths of compassion, to germinate. A story from a different domain. Leo was a self-made businessman who defined himself by his company, a thriving chain of hardware stores. The 2008 financial crisis wiped him out. He lost the business, the status, the financial security. The loss was total. In the bleak years that followed, he was forced to take a job as a night manager at a big-box home improvement store, the very kind of store that had helped put him out of business. The humiliation was acute. But on the quiet night shifts, something happened. Freed from the immense pressure of ownership, he found he enjoyed simply helping people. An elderly man looking for the right hinge for a jewelry box. A young couple nervously planning their first DIY project. He had knowledge, and he could give it freely, without the weight of a balance sheet. He discovered a satisfaction in these small, human exchanges that the grand success of running a company had never provided. The loss of his empire had stripped him down to his core competency, not business, but helpfulness. It had rehumanized him. "I thought I lost everything that mattered," he said. "But I was wrong. I lost everything that didn't." So, how do we sit in the classroom of loss, and allow it to teach us, rather than destroy us? First, practice grateful for what was. When loss strikes, our mind screams about the absence. Counter this by deliberately, even ritualistically, giving thanks for the fact that the lost thing or person existed at all. Write down specific memories, qualities, joys. This shifts the focus from the injustice of the ending, to the miracle of the having. It honors the gift, without clinging to its permanence. Second, ask, what has this loss revealed? In the cleared space left by a loss, look honestly. What dependencies has it exposed? What strengths are now visible? What relationships have deepened? What simple pleasures now taste sweeter? Loss is a brutal but honest spotlight. Don't look away from what it illuminates. Third, allow the full curriculum. Not just the pain. Loss teaches patience. It teaches humility. It teaches the depth of your own heart's capacity to break, and keep beating. It teaches you what you are made of. Don't just focus on the lesson of pain, be open to all the lessons. Journal about them. Today, loss taught me that I can survive a day I thought would kill me. Today, loss taught me how kind strangers can be. The great matter reframes loss from a random, cruel accident to an integral part of the contract of being alive. To love is to sign up for loss. To engage is to risk an ending. The teacher of loss does not promise we will enjoy its lessons. It promises that if we attend class with courage, we will graduate with a wisdom that cannot be bought any other way. The wisdom of resilience, the wisdom of preciousness, the wisdom of a heart that has been broken open, not apart. It teaches us that we are not here to build fortresses against loss, but to learn how to stand in the storm of it, and discover that we are not just the thing that can be broken, but also the space that contains the breaking, and remains. Following the raw curriculum of loss, we arrive at a more intimate and challenging interior landscape, the integration of shadows. The shadow, a term coined by psychologist Carl Jung, refers to the parts of ourselves we disown, deny, or repress, our weaknesses, our fears, our selfish impulses, our capacity for anger or pettiness, our mortality itself. We exile these aspects into the darkness of our unconscious, hoping to present a polished, acceptable self to the world. But the great matter is a brilliant, unforgiving light. It illuminates everything, including the corners we've tried to board up. It forces a reckoning. To truly live in the face of death is to stop lying, especially to ourselves. It means turning toward the shadow with curiosity, not condemnation, and integrating its lessons. For our wholeness, and our freedom, depends on it. Think of a tree. Its beauty isn't just in the sunlit leaves reaching upward, but in the deep, gnarled roots digging into the dark earth. The roots are unseen, often ugly, but they are the source of stability and nourishment. To cut off the roots is to kill the tree. Our shadow is our psychological root system. It holds vital, if uncomfortable, energies. Let me tell you about a man named Daniel, a charismatic and successful life coach who preached positivity, boundless energy, and relentless optimism. His public persona was a sunbeam. Privately, he was exhausted, plagued by waves of deep melancholy and a nagging sense of fraudulence. He spent tremendous energy suppressing these negative feelings, seeing them as enemies to his brand and his philosophy. His facade cracked during a silent retreat. With nowhere to run from his own mind, the suppressed melancholy rose like a tide. He fought it, trying to positive think his way out, but it was overwhelming. In despair, he finally stopped resisting. He let the sadness wash over him. And in the middle of it, a memory surfaced, himself as a small, sensitive boy, being told by his boisterous father to stop moping and be a man. He saw, with heartbreaking clarity, that he had built his entire sunlit persona on the exile of that sensitive, sometimes sad, boy. The shadow wasn't his enemy, it was a lost part of himself, desperate to be acknowledged. When he returned from the retreat, he didn't stop coaching. But he changed his message. He began to speak about wholeness instead of just positivity. He integrated his understanding of sadness as a teacher of depth, of sensitivity as a strength for empathy. He became more authentic, more grounded, and ironically, more inspiring. By integrating his shadow, he didn't become a sad person, he became a whole person who could access a fuller emotional range, making his light more genuine and sustainable. The great matter had forced him to admit his own fragility, and in doing so, he found a truer strength. Now, consider this from a biological perspective. The immune system doesn't work by pretending pathogens don't exist. It works by engaging with them, learning from them, and integrating that knowledge to build resilience. Suppression, ignoring an infection, can be deadly. Our psyche works similarly. Unexamined shadows don't disappear, they go rogue. Repressed anger turns into passive aggression or somatic illness. Unacknowledged fear mutates into generalized anxiety. Denied grief becomes chronic depression. The great matter, by making our wholeness and our limited time urgent concerns, pushes us to do the necessary psychic hygiene, to bring the shadow into the light of awareness, where it can be understood and integrated, rather than letting it fester in the dark. A story from art and history, the German-born painter Hans Hofmann, who became a giant of abstract expressionism, had a famous teaching method. He would tell students not to fear the mud in a painting. The messy, unresolved, ugly parts that naturally arise in the creative process. The mud is your friend, he'd say. It is the ground from which clarity emerges. If you try to paint around it, to keep everything pretty, your painting will be weak and timid. You must go through the mud. He taught that the integration of the messy, the wrong, the shadowy elements, was what gave a painting depth, power, and authenticity. Our lives are our canvas. To try to paint only the bright colors is to create a flat, unconvincing image. We must have the courage to include the mud, the dark tones, the awkward lines, the shadows, to create a portrait that is rich, dimensional, and true. So, how do we practically integrate our shadows? First, journal from the shadow's perspective. When you notice a judgment about someone else, they are so selfish. Try writing a short monologue as your own selfish part. I am the part of you that wants to be selfish. I am here because I need. I am afraid that if I don't. This isn't to endorse selfishness, but to understand its message. Often, the shadow holds a legitimate need that's been ignored. Second, practice welcoming difficult emotions. When a negative emotion arises, shame, envy, rage, instead of trying to fix it or make it go away, simply say inwardly, "Hello. I feel you. You are welcome here." Don't act on it. Just give it space to exist in your field of awareness. This disidentifies you from the emotion, and begins the process of integration. You are not the rage, you are the awareness, experiencing rage. Third, examine your triggers. What people or situations trigger strong negative reactions in you? According to shadow work, we are often triggered in others, what we have disowned in ourselves. The colleague whose arrogance infuriates you may be pointing to your own disowned desire for recognition. Use triggers as mirrors, not just grievances. The great matter is the ultimate shadow integrator because it forces us to integrate the biggest shadow of all, our own mortality. We spend our lives running from this knowledge, building identities and projects as fortresses against it. But when we finally turn and face it, when we welcome the fact of our ending into our conscious awareness, something paradoxical happens. The fear loses its power to lurk in the shadows and control us from the dark. Integrated, it becomes the sobering, clarifying fuel for authentic living. It is the mud from which our most precious priorities emerge. To integrate our shadows is to stop wasting energy on a civil war within ourselves. It is to become a unified field. It allows us to meet the world not as a brittle, polished mask, but as a whole, resilient, and authentically human being. We are not just the light. We are the being that contains both light and dark. And in that full containment lies our peace, our power, and our capacity to meet the great matter not as a terrifying specter, but as the final, natural shadow that gives definition to the bright gift of our life. Having done the interior work of shadow integration, we naturally look outward again, but with new eyes. We see that we are not alone in this condition. This brings us to the community of the mortal. One of the most insidious effects of denying the great matter is that it isolates us. We suffer in silence, pretending we are the only ones who feel this underlying anxiety, who fear loss, who sense the clock ticking. We compare our messy interiors to everyone else's curated exteriors, deepening the loneliness. But when we courageously acknowledge our finitude, a doorway opens, not to more isolation, but to a profound and universal kinship. We realize that every single person we meet, have met, or will ever meet, shares this one, non-negotiable fate. This awareness can dissolve the petty barriers of status, opinion, and background that separate us, revealing a shared, vulnerable humanity beneath. This is not a morbid bonding over doom. It is a compassionate solidarity in the face of a universal condition. It's the understanding that the person who cut you off in traffic, the politician you disagree with, the difficult family member, they, too, are living a brief, precious, and confusing story that will end. This doesn't excuse harmful behavior, but it can transform our reaction from blind hatred to a more sorrowful, clear-eyed understanding. It fosters empathy at the most fundamental level. Let me tell you about a hospice volunteer named Maya. Her job was to sit with the dying, often people who had no family or whose families were exhausted. She told me the most remarkable thing about the work wasn't the sadness, but the startling intimacy and honesty that arose. When people are stripped of the future, she said, conversation gets very real, very fast. We don't talk about the weather or investments. We talk about regret. We talk about love. We talk about the taste of a perfect peach they remember from childhood. We laugh about absurd things. The social mask completely dissolves. In that space, you meet the essence of the person. And you realize, this essence is in everyone. It's just usually buried under a lifetime of pretending they have forever to be someone else. Maya said this work didn't make her morbid, it made her more alive and more gentle with everyone. Now, when I'm in a grocery line and someone is slow or rude, I don't just see an obstacle. I see a mortal being, having a bad day in their one and only life. It doesn't mean I'm a doormat, but it means my response comes from a different place, from the community we both, unknowingly, belong to. For Maya, the great matter was the great equalizer and the great connector. Now, consider this through the lens of history and shared ritual. Every human culture that has ever existed has created rituals around death, funerals, wakes, days of remembrance like Dia de los Muertos or Qingming. These are not just practical or sentimental. They are profound acts of community building. They gather the living around the fact of mortality to reaffirm their bonds to each other. They say, we are all in this together. We will remember those who left, and we will be here for each other when it is our turn. In our modern, atomized world, we have often sanitized and privatized death, pushing it into hospitals and funeral homes, which has had the unintended consequence of increasing our existential loneliness. Re-embracing the community of the mortal means finding ways, personally and culturally, to reintegrate this truth into our shared life. A story from an unexpected place, a maximum security prison. A restorative justice program brought victims of violent crime and the perpetrators of similar crimes, not their own perpetrators, into dialogue circles. The initial walls were impenetrable: anger, shame, fear. But the facilitators began each circle not with the crime, but with a simple question: tell us about a time you felt truly safe. Or, what is a loss you have never spoken about? As these hardened men and these wounded victims began to share stories of childhood fear, of lost parents, of dreams shattered, something shifted. They began to see each other not as monster and victim, but as flawed, suffering human beings who had caused and experienced terrible pain. They saw each other's mortality. This didn't absolve guilt, but it created a sliver of shared understanding, a recognition of a common, broken humanity. From that sliver, genuine remorse and unexpected forgiveness sometimes grew. The community of the mortal had formed in the unlikeliest of places. So, how do we consciously cultivate this sense of community in our daily lives? First, practice mortal sight. In your next interaction, with a barista, a colleague, a stranger on the bus, pause for a second. Look past their role, their clothes, their mood. Remember, this is a conscious being, having a temporary experience on earth, just like you. They have loved and lost, they fear, they hope, and their story will end. Let this recognition soften your gaze, and gentle your interaction. Second, create truth-telling spaces. Foster relationships where you can speak honestly about life's big questions, fear, purpose, death, without judgment. This could be a book club that reads philosophy or poetry, a walking group where conversation goes deep, or simply an agreement with a close friend to occasionally ask, "How is your heart really doing with all of this?" This builds micro-communities of the mortal. Third, engage in collective acts of acknowledgement. Attend a community memorial, contribute to a public art project about memory, or simply participate fully in the cultural remembrance rituals you have. By doing so, you consciously join the communal conversation about life and death, moving it from a private fear to a shared human experience. The great matter, when held in common, loses its sting of isolation and becomes a source of connective tissue. It humbles us. It reminds us that no one gets out of here alive, and that in this shared boat on a mysterious ocean, kindness is the only sensible currency, and compassion is the only logical response to a fellow traveler. We are not here to compete in a game we all ultimately lose. We are here to keep each other company, to learn from each other, and to make the journey, however brief, a little less frightening, a little more beautiful, together. This is the community of the mortal, a fellowship forged not in belief or blood, but in the undeniable, shared fact of our beautiful, heartbreaking, temporary existence. From the solidarity of our shared condition, a profound personal liberation becomes possible. This is the freedom of the enough. Our culture is an engine of lack. It is built on the premise that you are not enough as you are, and that you do not have enough of what you need. It sells you the solution, more. More achievement, more possessions, more status, more experiences, more self-improvement. This creates a state of perpetual striving, a background hum of insufficiency that we mistake for ambition or even for life itself. The great matter performs a radical audit on this system. With the clarity of a finite timeline, it asks the devastatingly simple question, enough for what? Enough to be happy? Enough to be at peace? Enough to have lived a meaningful life? When you interrogate this from the perspective of your deathbed, the metrics of more often collapse, revealing that enough was available to you long ago, hidden beneath the noise of wanting. This freedom is not complacency. It is not about abandoning goals. It is about shifting from a motivation rooted in scarcity, I am not enough, so I must acquire/achieve to become enough, to a motivation rooted in sufficiency. I am already enough to begin, and I engage with life from this fullness. One is a desperate chase. The other is a creative expression. Let me tell you about a man named Eris, a once ferociously ambitious tech entrepreneur in Athens. He measured his worth by his company's valuation, his network, his influence. He was a master of more. A severe burnout led to a doctor's order of complete rest on a small, slow-moving island. For the first week, he was climbing the walls, checking his dead phone, plotting his comeback. By the second week, exhaustion won. He started to notice the rhythm of the place, the old men playing backgammon in the square at the same hour each day, the fisherman mending his nets with meticulous patience, the scent of oregano and salt on the afternoon breeze. Stripped of his identity as a builder of more, he was just a man in a chair, watching the sea. And in that stillness, a foreign feeling arose, contentment. Not the flash of a deal closed, but a deep, quiet okayness. He had nothing to prove, nowhere to be. He was simply existing, and it was enough. He realized his entire adult life had been a frantic flight from that feeling, mistaking it for boredom or failure. The great matter, via burnout, had forced him to stop, and in the stopping, he discovered he already had the only thing he'd ever truly been chasing, the peace of being present, without agenda. He returned to the city, but he sold his company. He now runs a small consultancy, working only on projects he believes in, with plenty of time for that chair, that sea. He has less, by conventional standards. But he has the freedom of knowing he is enough, and his life, as it is enough. Now, consider this from an ecological and systems perspective, the concept of carrying capacity. Every system has a limit to what it can healthily sustain. A forest can only support so many deer. A lake can only process so much nutrient runoff. Exceeding that capacity leads to collapse, starvation, algal blooms, system death. Our personal psyche and our modern global culture have wildly exceeded our healthy carrying capacity for stimulation, consumption, and expectation. The constant pressure for more is a psychic and ecological toxin. The freedom of enough is the wisdom of living within our true carrying capacity, the amount of stuff, noise, and ambition we can handle while remaining healthy, connected, and present. The great matter defines our ultimate carrying capacity, one life. Knowing its limits forces us to prioritize quality of experience over quantity of accumulation. A story from the world of craftsmanship illustrates this beautifully. In Sweden, there is a word, lagom. It means, roughly, just the right amount. Not too much, not too little. It's the amount of milk in your coffee that makes it perfect. It's the amount of work that leaves you satisfied but not drained. It's a philosophy of sufficiency and balance. A master furniture maker guided by lagom doesn't build the biggest, most ornate chair. He builds a chair that is perfectly balanced. Strong enough to last, beautiful enough to please, simple enough to not dominate a room. His satisfaction comes from hitting that point of enough, where anything more would be superfluous, anything less would be lacking. He finds freedom within constraints. The great matter is the ultimate constraint that makes lagom not just an aesthetic choice, but an existential necessity. So, how do we step into the freedom of enough? First, conduct a sufficiency inventory. Take stock of a key area of your life, your possessions, your commitments, your digital consumption. For each item, ask, does this add to my sense of aliveness and peace, or does it drain it, in service of a more that never arrives? Begin to prune the drains. You are defining your own carrying capacity. Second, practice arrival moments. Several times a day, stop. Breathe. Look around. Say to yourself, internally, in this moment, I am safe. I am fed. I am breathing. I am aware. This is enough. This is not denying problems. It is grounding yourself in the fundamental sufficiency of your existence, which is the stable platform from which to address problems, not from panic, but from presence. Third, redefine success as saturation, not scale. Instead of measuring success by size, bigger salary, bigger house, bigger audience, measure it by depth of engagement. Did I fully taste that meal? Was I completely present in that conversation? Did I pour my full attention into that task? A life saturated with conscious experience is a successful life, regardless of its footprint. The freedom of enough is the psychological and spiritual equivalent of decluttering a hoarded house. You remove the piles of someday and more to reveal the clean, functional, beautiful space of your actual life. It is the understanding that the hunger for endless more is a distraction from the sacred work of fully inhabiting what you already have. The great matter grants the ultimate permission slip. You are hereby released from the exhausting race for more. You have only this one, small, beautiful life. That is not a limitation, it is the definition of your assignment. Your job is not to make it infinite, but to make it full. And fullness is a quality of attention, not in quantity of assets. You already have everything you need to begin. You are already enough. And so we arrive at our final destination, not with a grand conclusion, but with a gentle turning. This is the return to the ordinary world. After journeying through the landscapes of awareness, loss, unity, and the continuous breath, we do not ascend to a mountain peak to remain forever. We must come back down. We must return to the kitchen, the commute, the email inbox, the small talk, the unfinished chores. But we return changed. The great matter is not a weekend retreat from which we bring back souvenirs. It is a lens that has been permanently grafted to our sight. The return is where the real practice begins. It is the application of this supreme clarity to the utterly common, the daily test of whether our understanding has weight and warmth. The return is not a failure or a forgetting. It is the integration of the vertical insight into the horizontal flow of life. The mystic swims in the ocean of unity, but must still come ashore to buy groceries and pay taxes. The wisdom of the great matter is useless if it cannot help us wash a dish with more patience, listen to a child with more presence, or face a disappointment with more grace. The ordinary world is not an illusion to escape, it is the very gymnasium where our awakening gets its muscles. Think of a diver who has explored the profound, silent depths of the ocean. They see wonders, feel pressures, encounter a different reality. But they must surface. They must return to the boat, to the wind, to the conversation with fellow divers. They do not forget the depths. The memory lives in their cells, changes the way they see the shimmer on the water's surface, deepens their appreciation for the very air they breathe. They have brought the depth up with them. Our journey through the great matter is that dive. The return is the surfacing, carrying the pressure of that truth into the common light of day. Let me tell you about a man named Ben, who, after a cancer scare that turned out to be a false alarm, felt he had been given a postponed death sentence. The intense clarity he felt in the week of waiting, what mattered, who mattered, began to fade as he returned to his normal routine as a high school teacher. The grind of grading papers, staff meetings, and teenage drama started to cloud the pristine lens he'd been given. He feared the gift was slipping away. His integration began in the most mundane place, his classroom. He made one simple change. He instituted the first 2 minutes of each class as silent, arrival time. No phones, no talking. Just breathing, settling, being present. He did it for himself as much as for them. In that daily, shared silence, he reconnected with the great matter. He would look at the young faces, each a universe of hope and fear, each living their own brief, precious story. Grading papers became less about correcting errors and more about witnessing growth. A frustrating staff meeting became a gathering of mortal beings, all trying their best within a flawed system. He didn't become a perfect saint, he still got frustrated. But the frustration now had a backdrop, the vast, quiet backdrop of impermanence, which made it feel smaller, more manageable. He had returned to the ordinary world, but he had brought the depth with him, and it transformed the ordinary into something poignant and sacred. Now, consider this return through the lens of myth. In the hero's journey, after acquiring treasure or wisdom in a special world, the hero must return to the ordinary world to share the elixir, the thing that will heal their community. The journey is incomplete without the return. The elixir of the great matter is not a secret doctrine. It is a quality of presence, a deepened compassion, a clarified priority. Our community, our family, our co-workers, our strangers on the street, is sick with forgetfulness, with hurry, with the trance of permanence. Our return, and the way we live within it, is how we share the elixir. Not by preaching, but by embodying a little more patience, a little more courage to connect, a little less attachment to trivial conflicts. A final story, a simple one. There is a Zen saying, "Before enlightenment, chop wood, carry water. After enlightenment, chop wood, carry water." The activity is identical. The consciousness engaging in the activity is utterly transformed. The wood is no longer just fuel, it is the body of a tree that grew for decades in sun and rain. The water is no longer just a burden to carry, it is the liquid essence of life itself, cupped in your hands. The chopping and carrying are no longer chores to finish. They are complete and holy acts in themselves, performed in the full knowledge that your arms that swing the axe and your shoulders that bear the yoke are temporary, miraculous gifts. The return is to the woodpile and the well, but you come back to them as a pilgrim to a shrine. So, as we prepare to close, how do we ensure this return is fruitful, that the lens stays clear? First, establish daily, touchstone practices. Choose one or two simple acts that reconnect you to the great matter each day. It could be the silent arrival moment, like Ben's. It could be pausing before a meal. It could be looking at the night sky for 1 minute before bed. These are not grand meditations, they are momentary recalibrations, brushing the dust off the lens. Second, let difficulty be your bell. When you are triggered by anger, anxiety, boredom, let that be your mindfulness bell. In that moment, hear the whisper of the great matter. This, too, is part of your finite experience. How will you meet it? Use difficulty not as a signal to fight, but as a signal to remember. Third, bless the ordinary. Specifically, make it a habit to mentally bless the utterly normal things you do. Bless this traffic, my chance to breathe and listen. Bless this tedious report, my chance to focus and complete. Bless this uncomfortable conversation, my chance to be brave and honest. This alchemizes burden into sacrament. The journey we have taken together through these 19 parts is now yours. The great matter is no longer a foreign teaching, it is a perspective you can put on like a pair of glasses. It will not make life easy. It will make life real. It will break your heart open, repeatedly. And it will fill that broken space with a love for this world so fierce and so tender that it can only be called sacred. You will forget. You will fall back into the trance of time, of worry, of petty grievance. This is human. When you do, be gentle with yourself. Then, remember. Remember the merchant and the stone. Remember the dancer who became a composer of silence. Remember the potter who released his pots to the fire. Remember the continuous breath. Remember you are mortal. And in that remembering, wake up again. Here. Now. This has been our exploration at Monk's Temple. Thank you for your profound attention. Take this peace with you. Carry it into your ordinary, extraordinary world. And sleep well, knowing that to be aware of the great matter is to have already begun to live the only life you ever really have, this one.